Okay, good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's webinar sponsored by Ziflow. My name is Mike, and I'm going to be one of your hosts today. And let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we start today, I've got a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded, and we will circulate a link later today for all registrants. The lines are muted, and that's really just to cut down on background noise. In my case, that would be a leaf blower or some homeschooled children. But please feel free to use the Q&A feature in the webinar interface to ask any questions. We will most likely take those at the end. Sometimes we're able to take those on the fly, but we'll definitely take them at the end in the order that they were received. All right. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce today's presenters. As I mentioned, my name is Mike Puterbaugh. I'm the CMO here at Ziflow. I'm joined by Katie Oberthaler, our brand manager here at Ziflow. And we're also, our guest star today, we're really excited to have is Terry Walliser from Ribbit Digital Design. We're super excited to have her explain to us how Ribbit has modernized their workflow, their creative workflow approach. And with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Katie and have her kind of kick it off today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, and hello, and thank you to Terry for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. I know you work on a ton of creative projects all the time and are a power user of Ziflow, so we just appreciate you explaining your use case to us and everyone on the webinar. So I wanted to start and just have you describe a little bit about Ribbit Digital Design, the types of clients you serve, how your agency is set up, and the kind of scale and variety of projects that you're working on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. Hi, Katie, and hi, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on today and showcasing, what Ribbit can do. We're actually a team of 3 or 4 creatives that we all work from home, and we kind of combine our creativity to maximize what we're doing for our clients. In the end, we really think of ourselves as kind of like gap fillers. Our mission is pretty simple. We're here to help fill in the gaps for any businesses and help with one-off projects, regardless of the size or scope. We're here to help in any capacity that our clients need. And as a professional gap filler, we do a lot of different things. And that could be anything from video, production, editing, motion graphics, to video translation and video management. We also handle ads for social platforms, banner ads, website building, content editing, email marketing, graphic design, content writing, video script writing, content research, and photo editing. So that kind of encompasses a lot of what we do. And we have clients that range in size of mom and pop businesses to billion-dollar companies. And it's not always the size of what your little business is, but how well you can meet that client's needs and be there for them and provide outstanding customer service.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that, we'll dig into, is how you provide, consistent and reliable customer service when you have your hand in so many different content types and complex campaigns, as well as, serving so many different clients with a lot of different stakeholders. So I wanted, like I said, to kind of dive into that with you of what are your kind of major challenges as a small remote team working on all of these different client projects with diverse clients. What are some of the most challenging aspects for you for delivering that client service?
It was important that we try to keep everyone focused, like project focused, and centered solely on the project. And a lot of times we find it's so easy to become inundated if we are staying in our inboxes, our email inboxes. And that was such a really difficult thing to try to persuade some of our clients to, convert over to a proofing tool. And I think once, they started actually seeing it in action, it was much easier for them to be on board for anything we did for them in the future. So it's really important for us to stay organized. And in order to stay organized, we really have to stay out of our inboxes as much as possible. And we feel like we've gotten, a pretty good handle on keeping ourselves out of the inbox thanks to Ziflow.
Yeah, and we'll, like I said, we'll kind of talk about that later of the, the impact of minimizing email. As a small team, what's the importance of being able to manage, not only having project, being able to take on a larger project workflow, but managing feedback with your clients. What's sort of the importance of addressing those issues as a small team?
Yeah, I think it's important no matter the size of your team, small or large, because we are a small team. We have to be on top of so many more things than if we were a little bit larger of a team. And so I can't emphasize the importance of keeping everything within, one proofing tool to manage a project from start to finish really does help. I say keep it in within one proofing tool. That's part of our equation. But later on, I think in our discussion, we'll talk about how we implement the use of another tool that helps us manage our workflow and our projects kind of as a little dashboard that we use through Monday.com.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to talk about how you've combined those two systems. And one thing I did want to ask you about is when it comes to project workload, being able to make those kind of technology investments, how does that allow your small team to scale and to stay on top of new projects, new complex projects without getting overwhelmed or fall behind?
Honestly, if we didn't have the technology out there like Ziflow and other systems that are in place, there would be such a delay in trying to get these projects moving through the various channels that it needs to take place. So technology plays a huge role when you're doing such a diverse workload of projects where you have content writing, you have video management, you have video production. You literally have to be able to direct your clients to the actual tool that's going to help you manage all those little tiny details within a project so that you can stay on schedule and meet deadlines.
Yeah, I know one thing that we were chatting about when we were kind of discussing how you've implemented Ziflow is this idea of having, different content or proof repositories for each content format. So if you're working with video, a client has to go to one location to view the video and another location to proof, an HTML5 banner, email, those typically live in different systems. So it's hard to get a sense of the overall campaign or see everything in context together. And I think that kind of leads to the next slide where we'll talk a little bit about that complexity leads clients often to want a very simple solution. And typically that default is email. And I wanted to get your input on, why having a very simple, easy to use system like email is actually can be fairly detrimental to managing the feedback process with clients.
Yeah. I know that, if we have to spend any amount of time searching in our email, we're losing that time is just so valuable. So we just can't, it's a lose-lose for the client and for us because we are just spinning our wheels, trying to recapture where we left off in that project. And having the various tools that we do, including Ziflow, it really helps us stay on track, and it does keep us out of our email. And I think that if there's a tool out there that can keep you out of your email, absolutely, it's a must. You have to invest in that tool, and make use of all of the little intricacies that that the tool offers. I know for the Ribbit team, we have taken advantage of some of the back end features. It's pretty amazing what you guys do and what you offer, and we are constantly giving feedback, and it's encouraging to work with a company that actually you feel like your opinion matters, and that they are listening to you. And I can't speak highly enough of the support staff in helping us manage some of this stuff behind the scenes. If we do run into a problem, we know we can rely on you guys in a heartbeat, and it's going to be taken care of. But definitely staying out of the email is a priority, and should be a priority for probably every company out there.
Yeah, and I know that another large priority when you're working with so many clients is, can you talk a little bit about your clients maybe not all having the same level of technology savviness? So when you move away from email and you need to fill in the gap with something else that they can easily pick up, what's the importance of providing one solution that can work for many different clients that may not know how to access, approve, or use multiple systems?
Yeah, Ziflow has actually, made it really simple, and there's not a huge learning curve at all for the end user. And one of the biggest things that drew us to Ziflow was the fact that, that we could have guest reviewers that wouldn't have to invest a ton of time into learning how to use the tool. It's pretty intuitive. I think that, there are various levels of tech people out there, and people that are tech savvy and those that, like to stay in their email. But regardless of their level of expertise, literally Ziflow has made it so simple to, use the proofing tool that we feel confident every time that we present this to a new client that, there's going to be very few, if any, bumps in the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you just mentioned, which I want to talk about, is what was that breaking point for you where the Ribbit team wanted to move to the Ziflow system? I know you were using a previous proofing tool. You were using PageProof, and at what point did that become unsustainable for Ribbit, and kind of make the leap to using Ziflow?
It just seemed like when we were with PageProof, the creating a proof process seemed a little cumbersome to us. And I don't recall at the time that we were clients of theirs that we were, able to use a folder structure for organization. And it just became a little too confusing for us. And therefore, we really needed to look for something that would work a little better for us.
Yeah, what is the benefit of having really reliable support? What happens if if for some reason you have a question or an issue arises with a proof, and how does that impact your client service if you can't rely on support?
That's huge. That was one of the things that I did mention is that PageProof was located in New Zealand, and support was really challenging at the time. I believe they had the intent to roll out 24/7 support at some point, but it just wasn't fast enough for us. And it just, I feel like our needs were just kind of, more than what they were meeting at the time. And so, we just needed to move in a different direction. Um, I don't know what they offer, this day, because we've been with Ziflow for, I'm going to say maybe about 7 or 8 months. And, so you get to know what you are missing very quickly when you switch to a new tool. And we could see instantly that, there were some great benefits with Ziflow, and we were really happy with the support and just literally every aspect that, we have encountered with Ziflow.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so happy that it was a seamless transition both for your internal team. You don't want any disruption when you're working on all these projects, as well as for your clients. So I know you mentioned that your team, you're small, you're a 4-person team, and you've always worked remotely. But I'm curious what having, you implemented Ziflow right before the COVID crisis happened. What's the benefit of having a tool like this at a time when both you and your clients are working away from the office?
It actually was perfect timing because there was such a transition of people working from home that I think that our clients were just, so much more open to using whatever tool would help manage a project. And I'm hopeful that they see the benefits as well, and, maybe someday become customers for you guys too.
Yeah, I know that's something that your boss Robin said is, being able to show on improving how it can improve the client's sort of day-to-day process as well is a huge benefit for Ribbit. So I'm glad you guys made the transition before a lot of these work processes were disrupted or changed. So I actually kind of want to, like I said, dig into how you're using Ziflow. You have a very impressive use case, with how you've combined Ziflow with your project management tool, which is Monday.com. And can you just maybe explain some of the nitty gritty of how your proofs are created, how you send them to your clients, and what the client sees, and the kind of project hub that you direct them to when your content is progressing in these campaigns?
Sure. Because we like to keep people out of their email, we've kind of married the two, the Ziflow with our Monday boards. And so what we do is we upload a new proof, and we can do as many internal reviews and versions that we want to do before sending anything off to a client. And we do even have the ability to use the major and the minor versioning so that the client doesn't see, maybe we've done this, we've reviewed this 5 different times, and it looks like a fresh, new, clean first review for them, and they don't necessarily have to see everything we've done prior to that to tweak the proof. So we upload it there, and as you can see, I provided an example of just a board that looks very real to what we've actually done in the past for one of our clients, involving animated banner ads, and we did native ads, and we did LinkedIn carousel, and we've had each one of those pulse items is listed on the Monday board with a link to the Ziflow proof, that if we send our client directly to this Monday board and we keep track of this part of the project within this board, it does help us with the project workflow process. And you can use it however, it would meet your company needs. But for us, it does keep our clients out of their email and keeps us out as well. And it's kind of like a one-stop shop for everyone. And so we love how, we can have that control. And if there's a change made within Ziflow on a proof, we can always mention the person or reply, and they will be notified. But by and large, those are the only two methods of delivery notifications for our clients, because we don't want them necessarily to get every single notification and become, quickly inundated with update emails. So this has worked really well for us to be able to, keep track of our projects and create a consistent experience for everyone.
Yeah, I know you've talked about being able to only send the most important project updates to the client. How does that help streamline review or move deliverables, kind of faster to the end goal?
I think that by just sending them what they need to know, essentially, it helps us maybe stay in control of a project. And, so we can help drive the, completion or direction of that project, and, just really keep it on track. And, if obviously we're emailing, when we need to, but we do try to, keep it to a minimum just to, keep, everyone happy.
Yeah, I think there's so much sophistication in that simplicity, because you're providing a system that anyone can log in and use. This job board is very familiar looking to anyone that's used sort of project management software or is internally tracking creative projects, as probably most of your clients are from their end. I'm curious if you can provide an example of how you've convinced some of your clients to move to this system, maybe some that were resistant to email, especially a large company that maybe has a lot of stakeholders, how this has convinced them that it's a better review system than, say, just relying on email or PowerPoint. Do you have an example of that you could provide?
I think probably the one example that I can think of off the top of my head is where one of our clients wanted us to provide all the assets back in a PowerPoint presentation, which we just pretty much laid out the benefits of using Ziflow as a proofing tool and how it would not only benefit that individual who wanted that, but all the stakeholders that were involved in the review process, so that literally it could be a one-stop shop, and that the progression of it should be a progression of moving into a technology that allows you, it works for you, you don't have to work for it necessarily. So I think that probably is a really good example of someone wanting it thinking they want it maybe one way, but then showing them in context, here's what Ziflow can do for you. I think once you see it in context and you use it, it's an easy sell.
Right. I think once end users see that there's a single source of truth, for what a deliverable actually looks like, not just the way it's organized and it's the ability to access it, but your team has the peace of mind that what you're sending to the client is truly what it will look like when it's final.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I wanted to also get your thoughts on having this, this great system where you're using Ziflow along with Monday.com. Again, it looks like a very simple and streamlined solution, but it's quite sophisticated when you compare it to using email or disjointed methods. How has that impacted your team's ability to take on large projects or appear larger than, say, a 4-person team when you're engaging with, major corporations that have many departments. What's the benefit of this in terms of driving both your operations and your and gaining new business?
Oh my gosh, it's critical, because if we didn't have a system like this to drive our clients to, because let's face it, they're going to want to know what our workflow is, and they're going to be digging into that workflow as soon as we do a job for them. And so it becomes very evident very quickly that either A, you have your act together, or B, you don't. And
Yeah.
I think that, the use of the Monday board with Ziflow definitely shows them, number one, we're willing to, do whatever it takes to bring in the technology to streamline the process for everyone. And number two, I think it just gives them peace of mind having that visual that a Monday board provides, because you can see at a glance, where a project is at any point. And if there's a lot of moving parts to the project, then, it's kind of easy to go to this one-stop shop and actually, check it out from, a bird's eye view.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we see come up a lot, is that, the technology investments you're making, while your clients might not want to know what's really under the hood, they do want to know, are you providing sort of a modern interface and modern experience? Is it going to be hard to engage with you? So I'm glad to hear that has just really bolstered your client service, already the great work that you guys are doing and the standards that you have. So Terry, I wanted to open it up to you in case you have anything else you want to add. Otherwise, we'll kind of open the floor to Q&A. But I just thank you again for giving us some, fine-tuned details of how you've set up Ziflow at Ribbit.
Absolutely. I am, we are a thrilled customer with it. And I'm sure that I'm known by first name with all the support staff, just simply because, one little thing that I might have missed in the help or resource notes, your support staff just, clarifies instantaneously, and they're really responsive. We couldn't be happier with the product, and, we just thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. We are very happy to have you, and keep those support requests coming. That helps us innovate on the product. Yeah, so I'm going to open the floor to Q&A. Mike, I'm not sure if there's any questions that we want to pose as we close out, but the floor is open.
Yeah, great. And what a great conversation, both Katie and Terry. Thank you so much, Terry, for walking us through that. Really instructive. I think it gives a lot of people a lot of things to think about, especially when dealing with clients. And we do have a couple of client questions actually that did come in through the Q&A. So I think you may have addressed this. It looks like both of the questions came a little bit early on in the presentation. It's actually about workflow strategy. Does the client job type dictate your workflow, or is Ribbit relatively consistent in the workflow approach they take on jobs?
I would say it's a little bit of both. We're very consistent in our workflow, and we always involve a Monday board so that there's simple tracking for everyone. And of course, we have to look at what the client needs are in order to know what the workflow is going to involve. So I don't know, does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I think we talked about it, or I think you and Katie talked about it a little bit earlier as well, about, giving that kind of consistent approach with that consistent visibility to not only the Ribbit team members, but your clients. I think that's, yeah, I think it does. Another question, which I think you definitely did talk about, and maybe it even somewhat relates to the PowerPoint story, is did you meet with any resistance in rolling out Ziflow to your clients?
Yeah, that story definitely, occasionally you're going to, meet someone that's been used to doing a workflow or a project, handling it one way, and you have this new approach, and change is difficult for people at times. And I think the biggest thing that you have going for you is a tool like Ziflow that, once someone actually sees it in action and you put their project into context and they can actually see it and the benefits of it and the markup tools and the ease of use, it's a pretty easy sell.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I think, and obviously it differs. And you mentioned, you have a really wide and diverse client base that spans, billion-dollar companies that probably have their own multi-million-dollar software investments and are pretty technically savvy, but also mom and pop shops that obviously definitely rely on advertising and digital marketing for their business, but maybe that's not their core competency. So,
Like, can I
you
make
know, I
one
think,
point on that?
yeah, please.
So it hit me, as you're saying, as you're, summarizing that. And it really boils down to time. None of us have the time to spin our wheels and reinvent the wheel. Like, time is so valuable to people today, whether you are the billion-dollar company or the smaller mom and pop shop. Every person's time, every company's time is so valuable. And when you implement tools like Ziflow and Monday and anything else out there that you can latch onto to make your workflow process much more efficient, and you show your clients that you're saving them time, I think that it comes back to you tenfold.
Yeah, and the point also that you made and that Katie made, I think that's even more amplified and accentuated now that everyone's working from home, and there could be so much time lost when when we talk about workflow. One of the things that we mentioned quite a bit is that automated capability of moving things along stages when it's been completed. You don't have the luxury anymore. A lot of organizations do not have the luxury anymore of like kind of peeking their head over their cube wall or poking their head in someone's office saying, "Hey, I just finished the review of this. It's ready for you to check out. It's it's waiting for you." In Ziflow, being able for a system or a number of systems like you all have very elegantly put together with Monday.com, being able to help keep projects moving. I think that amplifies your point, Terry. Like, there's less wasted time to begin with. And that time also kind of falls in that category of people learning new systems and being able to quickly ramp up on a new system. It all adds up to that time bucket, right? And something that we're all very short on, especially today, and trying to get projects done in remote and work from home manners. So I think it's really smart how you all have leveraged the technology, especially as a fully remote workforce, to keep projects moving along. So, a lot of people spent, as Katie pointed out, a lot of people spend, we definitely saw this with our customer base. A lot of people spent the last, the first, I should say, maybe 6 to 8 weeks of quarantine and COVID, really figuring out how to work from home and work remotely. And thankfully, Ziflow was, I think a vitamin or an ingredient for some, very successful approaches there. But it all does kind of come back to that point you just made, Tara, which I think is a really important point. It all comes back to time. So yeah, I think that's a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that actually was our last question. So since I had such limited duties on this presentation, I think I'll take the opportunity to thank everyone for attending. Katie and Terry, just a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much both for taking the time out. Terry, we really appreciate you allowing us to share your story and you coming on with us today and to talk about Ribbit. Maybe we can do it again in the future, and we can talk about some of the more advances that you guys have made with the technology. That'd be great. I think that's going to do it for us. We appreciate everyone for attending. Please stand by for a message from us very shortly here with a recording to the webinar, as well as we'll be in touch with regards to our next webinar coming up in November. With that, I want to say thank you and goodbye.